Good evening. Welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes for everyone to get notified that I'm live here with you tonight. Obviously, it's Monday night New South Wales time, so I hope everyone has had a great Monday and a great weekend. Please let me know you're here by ticking the like button or making a comment or something like that. And please, during the show, feel free to put any questions or anything down or comments, and I will definitely try to address them while I'm while I'm in the middle of everything. Sometimes I don't get to see the comments if two or three people comment at the same time. They roll off the top of the screen. Hey Gwenda, good morning. Oh, good evening rather. Hey Karen, hey Tanja, welcome. So while you're tuning in and settling down, ready for tonight's topic, which is improving the relationship with our horses and how to ensure that our horse is enjoying his time with us. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So feel free to share and let everyone know that you're watching, or maybe someone that you know might be interested in watching this. So go ahead and share it. I can't see exactly what you guys can see, but I'm pretty sure there's a share button or a like button. I hope the light goes okay for you. I'm actually not at home yet. I've been on the road for 12 days. Good. Hey Rinny, I hope you've been in bed resting and I hope you're not sick. Karen's saying, how's your day been? Yeah, so my day has been pretty good. I've been on the road now for, I think this is day 11 or 12. I lose track of time. I came up for the Cabarita course, not last week, not the weekend just gone, but the weekend before that. So we had a great time there. And then I had 3 days to try and get, your usual sort of admin stuff done. But I'm on the Gold Coast. I've got a rental property up here, and I've been helping or getting it ready for new people to move into. And then we had our Liberty Clinic on Thursday and Friday at Cedar Grove, which was my first time at Cedar Grove grounds. Really cool facilities up there, and we had an absolute ball. And then over the weekend we had our collection and engagement clinic at Cedar Grove. So that's been really fun. And then today and tomorrow I was meant to have a clinic at Bangalow, and unfortunately we've had to call it off due to the weather, which is, you guys would know who have been to clinics before, very extremely unusual for us to call it off. And we actually had an indoor as well, but it was sort of really sort of sideways wind and rain and things like that. And a lot of the guys at Bangalow live in regions where we were worried about it flooding and coming over their bridges and them getting stuck out. So we have rescheduled that clinic, and so I'm here for one more night, and then I head home tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that, looking forward to seeing all my fur babies before the foundation clinic this weekend. Corinne saying self-inflicted. I hope it was worth it. I hope you had a good time. Hey Brooke, thanks. Thanks for joining. So let's get started on the conversation, improving your relationship with your horse, and hopefully some tips I'm going to share with you. What I'm hoping to share with you tonight is just some tips that are hopefully going to help you keep it to your horse being excited to see you. I, as you know, spend a lot of time on the road, and so my guys spend a lot of time on the road with me. So irrespective of whether it's my horses that have been on the road with me for some time, who get, that we've obviously got a pretty hectic work schedule. Pardon me, you can hear my voice is still not fantastic. This goes all the way back to America, where I lost my voice in America, and we've had back-to-back clinics, so it just has not had time to recover. So you can hear it's still croaky and squirrely, so you'll have to excuse me for drinking water during the show. Hey Holly, thanks for joining. She'll know why I'm doing that, but I won't say it because it's a live feed. So we're going to get started. As I was talking about my horses, whether they're the ones that are working with me all the time, who probably hate to see my face sometimes because, it's related to work. And then you've got the horses that don't get to see me all the time. So they would have their own reasons as well for not being that excited to see me. But I'm so blessed that both my working my working team who is out on the road with me, they are really happy to see me whenever they see me, and my resting horses that are in the paddock are always happy to see me. So I must be doing something right. Hey Eric, thanks for joining. I hope that you are okay after your little spill, but more so the spaghetti incident, not the Guns N' Roses album, but your spaghetti incident particularly. I hope you're recovering well from that. So let me talk about the first thing that I'm going to mention in regards to improving or maintaining our relationship with our horses and keeping our horses happy to see us. Hi Rian, thanks for joining. The first thing that I want to talk about is confidence, and that's confidence in the horses, but it's not, I'm not talking about confidence in regards to our horses not having scary objects. That's great to hear, Eric. It's not about our horses not being spooky or not being afraid of anything or anything like that. I mean, it is confidence in, hey Kate, thanks for joining, in you as a human being. So, or as someone who comes to see them all the time. So what I mean by that is that you are consistent, that your horse gets to expect the same person turning up every single day, not only in your attitude or your persona, if you like, or your, your energy, I guess. Obviously, humans are very, we fluctuate a lot in regards to our emotions, and we might be having a good day and we might be having a bad day, or we might be having an indifferent day or a busy day or whatever. And what our horses don't understand in that situation is why we're different all the time. So it's really important to check all your baggage at the gate and be the same consistent, calm, happy person when you're dealing with your horses. And that extends to your mannerisms. If you're a little bit grumpy, you might be a little bit sharper when you're putting on their rug, or a little bit sharper when you're brushing them, or a little bit more hustly and bustly when you're asking them to do things. And then the next day you turn out there and you're not so busy, and so you're really calm and you've got time, and so you're really kind in your movements and you're very precise in your movements. So if you can avoid that inconsistency in your behavior, your horse will be able to trust who you are every time they come. They'll be able to know, oh, this is who I've got, and they're like this all the time. So that consistency also spreads to our methodology and the way that we're training and handling our horses. So no matter what sort of method, I guess, you choose when it comes to your horses, you need to be consistent in that methodology and your application across all fronts. So, for example, let's say that we choose pressure and release, or negative reinforcement. So you apply pressure, and when the horse does the right thing, you take the negative away from you take the pressure away. So this is called negative reinforcement. And so if you choose to conduct yourself using negative reinforcement with your horse, that applies to everything. You can't turn into someone who uses punishment as a methodology. For example, if the horse moves into you while you're putting their rug on, you can't all of a sudden start to apply a punishment by spanking them or smacking them, but then when you want them to move out of the way at the wash bay, use negative reinforcement principles. So you've got to be consistent in your approach to the way that you're handling them, whether it's in training, whether it's washing them, whether it's feeding them, whether it's rugging them. You need to be the same, have the same principles applied no matter what it is that you're doing. Some of us tend to go to the arena and go, okay, I'm training now, so this is the way I'm going to train, negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement or whatever. But then we're inconsistent when we're handling them on a day-to-day basis. So we need to make sure that we're very consistent in that. So I've just missed a question from someone, so I apologize for that, but I will address it after the show. I will reply to your comment. And I've got to say hello to my mum, who's on my dad's profile there. Hey, mummy, welcome. And Eric is saying, question, so when I go for a week and plenty of feed in the paddock, better not to ask someone to come and feed them every day for minerals. I think that You could probably, knowing your paddocks, obviously you've got plenty of feed and things like that there. So it wouldn't hurt so much, especially for a couple of days. And it probably wouldn't hurt so much in the terms that they are getting, they're probably being consistently handled by that person. So it's more important for Eric to be the same all the time. And then if Tanja comes to feed the horses, if I have a different approach, then it doesn't really matter because the horse maybe isn't expecting the same approach from me. I mean, it would be great if we could teach everyone that comes to our horses to behave the same way. And certainly in our household, we're very blessed that Phil and Philip, when he's having to handle our horses, we're all using the same approach. So the horses are very, consistent, their approach consistently, and they're very aware of that. But if I had to go away and get, for example, some family members or something to look after my horses, I wouldn't necessarily leave them a list of this is how you've got to handle the horses. I don't think it would worry that much in regards to that, especially feeding, because normally they're going to get in there, put the bucket of feed down and walk out. So there's not going to be too much handling or training or anything like that. So unless they're going to let the horses sort of chase them for the feed and things like that, then you've got an issue. But if the basics are in place, then I don't think you've got a problem at all. Rian, okay, great. You're repeating your question. Does using different equipment also give them inconsistency, i.e. a flag or a stick? No, I actually like to change my equipment. I like to make sure that my horses are confident no matter what equipment that I'm using, but the application remains the same. I've got to say here that flags tend to be a little bit more aggressive because humans, when I see a human pick up a flag, we tend to be really aggressive in the movement because we try and make the flag make the noise, like the flapping noise and things like that. So that could be a problem because when I pick up my stick and string, I'm nice and smooth and I'm nice and I've got clarity, and then I pick up this flag and I'm chasing them sideways. So providing that you're not changing the way that you're asking and the methodology, then no, it's not an issue. I like my horses to have, confidence no matter what equipment is being used. Then the second thing I want to talk about when it comes to maintaining our relationship with our horses or being consistent, making sure that our horse is pretty happy to see us most of the time, is to keep it interesting with our horses. So whilst they get confidence, and it's very, you're welcome, whilst they get confidence from you being consistent in your who you are when you go and see them, how you teach them things, and certainly repetitive skills. So that is another thing that we need to put under that confidence banner. Going over the same skills frequently will give our horses confidence because they'll say, oh cool, lateral bend, I know how to do that, I'm confident with that. Oh cool, back up, I know how to do that, I'm confident with that. So applying the same skills or similar skills and similar expectations is very important. But moving on to the next category that I'm going to talk about, which is keeping it interesting, that's where we need to start introducing maybe new skills for the horse to learn. So we're constantly keeping them interested and intrigued in our training, and also cross training, which I'm very passionate about. So instead of always riding or working my horse in the arena, I will absolutely take them to new grounds. I'll take them on trails. I'll take them to the beach. We do liberty, we do online, we do ridden work. We might do dressage, we might do some obstacles, we might do some extreme trail. So I'm constantly, even though within all of those things, I'm going to apply maybe my primary skills. So I'm going to say, okay, give me a shoulder in, give me some quarters in, give me some renvers or travers or canter departs or rollbacks or spins or whatever it is. But I'm going to do those things as part of different areas. So if I'm on the extreme trail, I might go ahead and do a rollback to go to the next obstacle. Or if I'm chasing cattle, I might go ahead and do a turn on the haunches to to face a cow, or do a canter depart to chase a cow. And then in the dressage arena, I might train it as a maneuver. And then on the beach, I might just do it to have a little bit of fun on the beach or whatever. So I might still be doing the same skills, which is giving my horse confidence, but I'm cross training. So I'm doing it in different areas and I'm doing it in a different way. So he's remaining interested in, what it is that we're doing. I don't want to do so much different stuff that my horse is sort of like, I'm worried about what we're doing today, but I certainly want to do it enough different stuff so my horse isn't like, oh, here we go, we're in the arena again. Oh, here we go, we're doing the same thing again. I want to talk about making sure that we're physically taking care of our horses. So horses can get an association with us of pain, for example, if we don't ride them often enough, or if we don't keep them at a level of fitness and then we decide to go out and do a 20-kilometer ride, and then on the Monday and the Tuesday, say we do a big 20-kilometer ride on the Sunday, and then on the Monday and Tuesday we are unable to ride, or maybe unable to work with them, or just as it normally happens, the lactic acid starts to build up. Well, your horse will attribute that to the work that we have done with them on the preceding weekend. So it's not fair for us to just take our horse and say, I'm going to do this high intensity workout, and then go ahead and put them put them back in the paddock and not look at them for another week, or not build them up to their ability to do that high intensity workout and then cool them out of it as well. So if I have an expectation that I'm going to be doing some hard work, I need to get their cardio up, I need to get their muscular fitness up, I need to get their endurance up, so they're able to do that work without becoming too sore. It's just the same. Most of us have probably experienced that when we go to the gym or something like that, or go do a class or something. The next day we're walking around work and we go, oh, I can hardly walk today, and we have a bit of a chuckle, but it's painful and it hurts. And even with human beings, it probably comes into the back of our mind when we consider going to the gym the next time, or going to that class the next time. Certainly it can play on our mind a little bit, and probably make us a little bit reluctant to go and do that class again. So that's something to keep in mind. If your work with your horse is physically demanding and you're not getting him to a fitness level where he's able to do those exercises without becoming sore, then he's associating you with pain or discomfort. By the same token, if your equipment is painful, if your saddle doesn't fit properly, or if you haven't sort of I don't want to get on a big thing about equipment, but as long as you know how your equipment works, and think about adjusting your equipment. Horses grow, horses get fatter, horses get thinner, horses build muscle in different areas. Horses teeth, horses go through growing pains. So depending on the age of your horse, you need to consider what equipment you're using, how your equipment is working, and what it's designed to do. But then, has your horse changed shape? I meet people all the time and they'll say, oh, my girth goes on hole number 5. Well, not if your horse has put on weight, it doesn't. Not if your horse has lost weight, it doesn't. Not if he's put on muscle and trimmed up because you've been working him, he doesn't. Don't find markers on your equipment and say, well, that's where I do up my equipment to. Have a look at how your equipment fits and adjust it accordingly. If I put my belt on from when I was 20 and went to do it up to the same hole, it probably wouldn't fit. It'd be smaller, totally. It wouldn't fit, it would be uncomfortable for me to do up my belt at the same level I was, and yet we do that with our horses all the time. So just being aware of whether our interactions with our horses are causing pain and discomfort, and maybe that would be something that would make him not like to have a visit from us. Gwenda's saying too funny. Focus. So I think it's important for us to have focus and clarity when we're working with our horses. And even when we're doing things with our horses, particularly on a training scale, I think we need to know what it is that we're wanting, what the outcome of the interaction or the training session is for that day. because if we're not knowing what we're wanting, then we're ambiguous in our ask, and we're ambiguous in our reward because we haven't got an idea of what it is that we want. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants and going, oh, that didn't feel good, so I'm going to do it again. Oh, that felt pretty good, so I'm going to give you a rest. And then we end up quitting the session, and the horse kind of goes, why did she quit the session now? Is she run out of time? Have we got our timing down pat? Are we doing a session of 1 hour because that's the time that we need? Or are we looking at a session and going, okay, I've got an hour, but in 20 minutes we got some beautiful achievements done. How about we quit now while the horse understands that he's given me some beautiful work, and I'm going to go ahead and quit him, and why don't I spend time brushing him or just sitting with him or something like that. So knowing what it is that you're doing and having a focus helps your horse to feel that energy about you, and it helps your horse to be more confident in what it is that you're doing, because he feels like, okay, you know what you're doing. So that's something else that we need to consider, is having good focus. That brings me to clarity, which is similar, but I think focus is probably a bit of a plan on your part, where you have to be flexible in that plan. Whereas having clarity is knowing when I'm going to release. So say I go down to the paddock and I say to myself, I'm going to teach Cooper flying changes today. So there's my focus. My focus is flying changes, but then my clarity in that is knowing, well, this is where Cooper has been in flying changes in the past. Cooper hasn't been ridden. Let's use a real-time example. Cooper hasn't been ridden in 8 months. So maybe today's session on flying changes is simply me riding him and doing some suppling and strengthening exercises towards getting him fit enough to be doing some flying changes. And then in a week or two, when he's nice and fit, maybe it'll be working on canter departs. And I then need to have an idea about how good or what level his canter departs were at, so I can decide, okay, we're coming back to work. So maybe my canter depart was a 7 out of 10 on a scale, if I'm using some kind of measuring scale. And then I think to myself, okay, well, he's been out of work, so maybe my canter depart is going to drop to a 5, and maybe it's okay for me to quit the session when they're a 5 out of 10, because then I can build back to my 7, and then when I've got my 7 out of 10, then I can start to work on my flying changes. So having clarity in when you're going to reward your horse and when you're going to release is very important. Flexibility is another thing that we need to consider when it comes to our plan and our clarity. I head out to the paddock and my idea is to work on flying changes that day, and I get there and my horse is tired or flat or fatigued or excited to the point where I don't feel confident enough to do stuff. I need to have flexibility in my plan. Maybe today's not a great day to do flying changes. Maybe I need to work on something else. Maybe I need to work on confidence building. Maybe I need to work on, some more suppling exercises to get him feeling better or feeling fit. So, don't get tunnel vision when it comes to what it is that you want to work on. You have to have flexibility. And in that flexibility, the horse gets the idea that he's... you sort of get down there, he feels your focus, but then you read what he's feeling like today, and then you make the session a nice session that he's able to achieve, and that makes him want to be with you, instead of thinking, gee, that was hard, that was tiring, that was, I got too fatigued, I couldn't understand, I wasn't, horses don't think in human terms in that way, but they certainly, they have those feelings of, frustration or not being able to understand us or whatever. Rian saying, so I write down what I want to work on. You can write it down, absolutely. I generally have it in the back of my mind, but definitely over time. So she's clarifying, not for one session, just in general over time. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a training plan or a training scope that I work on with all of my horses, because all of my horses are at different levels. So I definitely have a forecasted training plan or a focus of what it is that I want to work on with each horse, because then you know, it gives me that plan, it gives me that flexibility, it gives me that clarity. I can still have flexibility surrounding that plan, but I've also got a bit of a forecast for, okay, 2017, this is what I want to work on, this is where I want my horses to be at the end of the year, that kind of thing. I want to talk about being present now. The next thing is being present with our horses. And I can't give you an example because I'm using my phone to video, you know, come to you live, but we've all, no doubt, we have all experienced someone that we've been talking to at some point and their phone has buzzed or a notification has come up on their phone and they go ahead and pick up their phone just to check it or to reply to a message or whatever. And we have that little feeling where we're like, oh, okay, I'll wait, that's fine. Okay, you can pay attention to the phone, or we were in the middle of a conversation or whatever it is. And your horses feel that way as well. You know, if you get there and half of your mind is thinking about dinner and thinking about the shopping list, he can feel that you're not 100% present and 100% focused on, you know, what you're doing on that day. And why should he then? Why should he then be 100% present when you're not? So I think it's really important to, again, go through that little ritual if you need to. When you get to the gate, you put away your baggage for the day, you put your hat on of who you want to be when you're working with your horse, and then you also make sure that you're present. So, you know, put the phone away or don't take it down to the paddock, or if you take it for safety reasons, then make sure that you're not, you know, getting on it. I mean, I like to get on my phone in terms of rest. So when my horse does a really nice maneuver or something like that, if I'm training a maneuver, I might pick up my phone and get on my phone so I know I'm not fussing with the horse. I know I'm not, you know, oh, okay, we've stood still for 5 seconds, let's go and do another walk, or let's just do a hindquarter yield, or let's just do a bend. I like to stop still, get on my phone, have a little bit of a, you know, look on Facebook or check a message or something like that, and then the phone goes away, I reconnect with the horse, and then I go on to the next maneuver. So I do use it as a rest kind of a thing. Your energy when it comes to what it is that you're doing needs to be, you need to lead by example. So if you want your horse to be exuberant and excited in your work, then you need to be exuberant and excited. I'm not talking about going over the top, but if you sort of turn up and you're like, yep, canter, yep, let's do a pirouette, yep, let's do a flying change, and you're pretty blasé about the whole thing, your horse isn't going to match. Your horse isn't going to go past that level of energy. He's not going to be like, wow, this is the best session ever. We're doing flying changes. We're doing pirouettes. If you're not excited, he's not going to be excited. So you need to feel joy and feel excitement in your work, and be present in your work and feel excited in your work. And that's going to reflect in your horse as well. We've spoken a lot about work and training and the things that we have to do. So picking out their feed and washing them and rugging them and feeding them and all that kind of stuff. And now I want to talk about having downtime. Spending downtime with our horses is something that we probably don't get a lot of time to do. And I know it's really difficult. I know most of the time when we get down there, we're sitting, we're trying to feed them, or we are trying to get jobs done, or we're trying to fit in 10 minutes of training. But it is vital, I believe, in the relationship to make sure that you're also spending downtime. If you have a workplace, you know, I'm sure that if Hannah came to work and I said, hey Hannah, I normally greet her like that. I go, hey Hannah, how are you? And I say, hey Milani. And I say, how was your weekend? And we might have a, 5 or 10 minute chat about the weekend or what she did or who she saw. And she likes to know about my weekend as well and how clinics went and all the rest of it. If she walked in the door and I said, good morning, and she said, how was your weekend? I said, oh, we didn't have time to talk about that. It's work, 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 work. It wouldn't be a very nice workplace to work in, because we would never get to spend any downtime just talking and touching base with each other. So that's the same as your horse. If your horse sees you and goes, oh, here comes the work, here comes the, let's get in the office, then you've got an imbalance in what it is that your horse's expectations. When I call my horses, they don't know if we're going somewhere, they don't know if we're working in the paddock, they don't know if I'm going to take them up the road and do some work with them, they don't know if I'm going to sit down with them and just hang out in the paddock for half an hour, they don't know if I'm going to groom them or whatever. A lot of the time I just go in there to say hello and touch base and make sure that everyone's okay and give them all a pat and give them all a hello and all that sort of stuff. They don't know. And like I say, they don't, I'm not saying surprise them all the time so they lack confidence, but I'm saying that they come over because they know that they don't, when I was a kid and I was on school holidays, by day 5, my horse was running across the other side of the paddock because he was like, oh, here we go. She's on, she's in the paddock, she's got those riding boots on. He knew exactly what we were going to do because I didn't used to go down there very much and just hang in the paddock with him, And then I soon learned, from having that experience, okay, well, Shadow thinks it's work. So then I'd used to go down and maybe hang out with him for a little while and brush him or just sit in the paddock and things like that. And then our relationship improves. So absolutely sharing some downtime with each other. Balance. We call that balance within our relationship. So all play is no good either, because then when you do ask your horse to do something, they're going to be like, no, we don't, we just hang out in the paddock. We were at the clinic on the weekend actually, and we were having exactly this discussion, and I had one lady say, well, that's probably me. I go down there and my horse is like, oh, here we go. What's the job for today? And then I had another lady who said, I'm the opposite. I spend a lot of downtime with my horses. And it was reflected in the horses, because when lady number 1 went in the arena, the horse kind of went, oh, okay, what's the job today? And then when lady number 2 went in the arena, that horse went, oh, you're asking me to do something. How dare you? You never asked me to do anything. So you've got to find the balance in that. So the horse is not offended when you finally do ask them to do something, but they're also not just rolling their eyes and thinking, oh, here comes the workload for today. Hillary's saying she just got in from riding Bessie, so this is her young horse, and I believe she's been doing the TKH 100 challenge with her. So that's 100 days straight of work, and she's saying she's waiting at the gate every night. So Hillary's obviously doing something right. She's saying she does get carrots though. But Hillary's not bribing her with carrots. The horse is obviously interested. Believe me, I used to take carrots down to the paddock for Shadow, and he was like, you can keep your carrots. I don't want to go for the 6-hour trail ride that we're going on in a minute. So that brings me to, I think the second last thing maybe that we're going to talk about tonight. Yes, pulling faces. So this whole Monday Night Live, I think it was Anne that suggested, she had a question about pulling faces. And so this is how it kind of developed on from there. So I do want to touch on our horses when they pull faces at us. So what we need to do is think about, why is our horses pulling faces? So some of us get used to the whole pulling faces thing, and we might write it off. We have a running joke about chestnut mares, and my chestnut mare is a bit like that as well. She likes to pull the odd face, but I always try and figure out what it is that she is pulling a face about, because just because she can be grumpy doesn't mean that she's not in pain, doesn't mean that she's not in discomfort. And that's two different things, right? Pain and discomfort, two different things. Doesn't mean that she isn't just telling me that she doesn't like what we're doing that day. And it also doesn't mean that, she isn't trying to tell me that, the saddle's hurting her, or, that she is muscle sore or something like that. So even if your horse is habitually pulling faces, we want to try and figure out why they're pulling faces. And I'm not going to punish my horse for pulling faces at me, even if I think that they're just pulling faces because they don't like what I'm doing. Part of a relationship is being able to say, hey, I'm not enjoying this. And then I need to say to myself, am I presenting this in the best possible way for my horse? Does he understand what I'm asking him to do and just not like it because it's a little bit challenging or difficult? am I presenting this in a way that's frustrating to the horse because they don't understand me? Are they just simply, you know, being a brat? Or does it go deeper? So if you've got a horse that pulls faces at you, absolutely consider that they could be in pain. They could be experiencing discomfort. They may be misunderstanding what it is that you're trying to ask them. They may be simply saying, I don't like this. And I say, okay, that's fine for you to tell me that, but we still need to do something, etc., etc. Okay? So pulling faces leads me to my final thing, which is a face that I do tend to see a lot, so that's why I'm going to expand on it, and that is the face of resentment. So I see this a lot in a lot of horses that come to clinics and things like that, and resentment can come from a lack of understanding, so the horse not understanding what it is that you're asking of them. But it can also come from a lack of progress. And what I mean by that is as your horse becomes an advancing or an experienced horse, or a horse that you have owned for a long time and you've been in, you know, working with for a long time, resentment can come from you still talking to that horse as if he's in kindergarten. So we spoke about this a lot over the weekend, and when I think about my horse's education, he goes from being a young baby horse in kindergarten, and then he moves up into primary school, and then he moves up into high school, and then he moves up into university. And if I go ahead and continue to talk to my horse as if he's in preschool, kindergarten, and I go, oh, Cooper, you know, let's do a lateral bend today, and this is how you do it, Cooper's going to build resentment. And I use him as an example because Cooper has been on the road with me for, you know, so many clinics. Most of you have met him that have been to clinics before. You would have met Cooper, and yet he will still demonstrate a lateral bend with a level of pride in his work. He is not resentful of doing the lateral bend, and that's because I raise the bar all the time, and I'm always looking for Cooper to present to me a world champion lateral bend. And I'm also asking him at the level that a university lecturer asks their students to present work, not at a level that a kindergarten teacher asks their students to present work. So I'm not saying to Cooper, oh yay, you did a lateral bend and this is how we do it, etc., etc. I'm saying, here we are, let's do the lateral bend. I'm talking to him as if he's a university student, and he can definitely feel the difference in my body language and the way that I'm presenting something to him. So I need to make sure that if I want to avoid resentment in my advancing horse, that I start to communicate with him at a higher level, exactly the same way as you speak to your children. You know, if you speak to your 5-year-old, it's not going to be the same way you speak to your 12-year-old. It's not going to be the same way that you speak to your 18-year-old. You know, you're not still saying to your 18-year-old, oh, yay, you went to the toilet by yourself. You know, you're well and truly past that. So you progress in every relationship. You progress in the way that you communicate with each other, and it's no different with our horses once our horses have learnt skills. The other thing that can cause resentment in our horses is a lack of purpose in our exercises, and our lack of going through the motions. Okay, so if you're out there and you're going through the motions, and like I say, you know, I use lateral bend as an example, but I've got 10 ground exercises that I like to do with my horses, right? So I can take my advanced horse and I'm still going to do those 10 ground exercises, but they're going to be presented, and the expectation is going to be a lot higher than me presenting that to a young horse again. But if I start going through those 10 ground exercises that I have done hundreds of thousands of times, and Cooper has done hundreds of thousands of times, at a level where I go, oh, come on, Cooper, we're just going through the lateral bend. Oh, come on, Cooper, we're going through the turn on the haunches. He's going to go, oh, yeah, Tanya, we're going through, you know, whereas if I go up to him and go, righto, Cooper, we've both done this thousands of times. How can we make this a world champion lateral bend? He feels that energy in me, and he brings to the table the same level of energy that I'm bringing with him. So resentment is also caused by you going through the motions and your horse feeling that that's what you're doing with that drill. So if you feel that there's no purpose to the drill, or you're rolling your eyes while you're doing the drill, horse is going to be rolling his eyes while he's doing the drill. So treat your horse as at the level of his training and as you want him to be. Rian saying, my horse does full paces around food. He also has a habit of sucking fingers. Weird, I know, and I see it as part of his personality. It can be scary for someone new who thinks he is going to bite them. I don't want to discourage him to bring his nose to me by keeping telling him, and now my phone's not letting me read the rest of it. So let's talk about pulling faces around food. My horse will pull faces around food. He does not get his food until he puts his ears forward and waits very nicely for me to put that food down. And it's my food until I tell him it's his food. So as soon as I finish this Monday Night Live, I'm about to go to a restaurant and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to order myself some dinner. And when that waiter comes to me, I'm not going to sit there and go, hurry up and put it on the table. And I wouldn't expect that behavior to be acceptable to a waiter, and I don't expect that kind of behavior to come from my horse. So that's rule number one about pulling faces around food. Sucking fingers can be something that they've learned from the time that they're very small, if it's a habit that they just haven't broken. And that's a personal choice. If you're happy with your horse to do that with you, then certainly go for it. Let him keep doing it. But if it's an issue where he is a horse that is handled by lots of different people all the time, and it does scare people, and that's of a concern to you, then it's a behavior that needs to be addressed. But I wouldn't address it by bopping him on the nose or anything like that. I would simply address it by teaching him to park away from you. So teaching him to be at a distance from you, and then he just won't be able to reach you. It's that simple. Out of reach, and he won't be able to make. He won't be able to do it. It's just the same as. If I'm sitting with someone and and we're having a conversation and they're clicking a pen, it's one of those little things that drive me absolutely up the wall. Someone sitting here and talking, or if they're thinking and they're sort of like clicking their pen all the time and they don't notice, I'll either say to them, hey, could you maybe not click the pen? Or I'll say to them, can I just grab that from you? And if it's a child or something like that, I might say, I'm just going to take that pen. So I just take it, out of reach, and the behavior can't happen. So if he's out of your reach, then he can't suck on your fingers. So I hope that helped. I hope that answered the questions. We are a little bit behind. I know there's a few of you on here that tune in every Monday night, and I thank you so much for that. And I know there's a few of you that have asked for the Monday Night Live information sheets, and I have to say that I'm super behind on the Monday Night Live sheets. No excuses. I just they're not at the top of that priority list. Curriculum planning and getting to clinics and all that sort of stuff is obviously high on the priority list. I have every intention of catching up. I will be doing a information sheet on tonight's session. So if you would like it, please go ahead and send me a private message with your email address, so I know that I can send it over to you when I finally do get it done. Thank you so much again for joining. Rian, I want to come to the UK. Please send me a message and we can try and organize that. I do have a month next year earmarked. I think it might be maybe June or something, or maybe even May, where I can come over to the UK. We didn't get to organize it in time last year, but it's definitely something that I would love to do. So if you're able to help me with any of that planning, please go ahead and send me a private message, and I can hopefully get over there. Keep messaging me and letting me know how you're going with all of your horses. Thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited. I just got a little flash over my screen from my publisher, who I think has just sent me a message saying that Joni the pony has arrived, and she has the book in her hands, the proof book in her hands. So I think she's about to send me a photo of it. So I'm super excited about that. It's been such a long time in the making, and she will ship that to me hopefully within a couple of days in an overnight bag. So by the end of the week, hopefully you will see me with the book, and we'll as soon as I approve the colors and everything like that, the actual hard copies will be here. So if you're wanting to order that, please go ahead and send a private message, or head to the Joni Not Just a Pony Facebook page. It's a really cool book. It's it's for kids. It's a rhyming book, so it's for adults to read to kids, and it's pretty suitable for kids up to about 12 years old. It's got a really special, important message. I'm really really proud of it. I really want it to get out there because I think it's such an important message for kids to not compare themselves to others. And you know, it's cool because it's got horses in it, and the characters are horses. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Michelle's just coming in with the last thing. Don't hand feed horses. She has formed better relationships by not feeding them out of their hand. Yeah, because of the respect thing. Yeah, so as I said, that's a personal choice. Absolutely. If you want to have that policy, it's a really good one to have. I personally do feed them. I'll give them treats and things like that, but not... you know, I don't use them for your training, so they're not looking for them all the time, and it's not all the time when they get treats. So that's probably a whole nother video. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for spending your Monday night with me. I hope everyone's been having a really great time with their horses, and keep in touch and keep an eye on the Facebook page, and I will see you all soon. Heading home this weekend for the foundation clinic, so I look forward to seeing those of you that are coming there. Have a great night.